Hello everybody, Hassan here from my Galaxy Invest. Just a reminder, this is not financial advice, so please do your own research. So today I just wanted to go a little bit about a few things that popped up today in our Twitter feed. Before I jump into it, I did want to mention NTLA today up 11% again. So yesterday I made a video, they were up 10%, and today another 11%. So this is a big jump, right? We're looking now at a market cap company of $5.44 billion, right? This is very big. It's like almost $1 billion worth in just less than 24 hours. Big jump, right? Big jump. So this company is getting a lot of attention in the media, and that's probably because of their latest press releases, which one was about base editing, and then another one was also something related to their NTLA 2001 program, which is what you see here. See NTLA Therapeutics, CRISPR treatment, NTLA 2001 received European Union Orphan Drug Designation for ATTR. Very big, right? Very interesting. It looks like they gained the orphan drug status there, so that's very bullish. So I think a lot of attention is being thrown to this company, and in a previous video I made, I do believe this is one of the leading companies in this space, but it's definitely something you want to watch out for. And now I did want to mention here CRISPR Therapeutics here today, big jump as well. Let's see if I can just like filter out directly in CRISPR Therapeutics. I don't want to compare it. So yeah, so CRISPR Therapeutics over 5% up, almost 6%. Big jump. The whole market was up, right? So you'll see that these types of companies, when market is doing well, they're usually the ones to also rebound pretty well as well. So you're seeing that in the recent days, especially with NTLA and obviously with CRISPR today as well. So I didn't want to just go a high level what's going on today. I also wanted to show a clip. So this is from a YouTuber, and she interviewed Professor Dr. David R. Liu, which we mentioned in a previous video. He sort of posted a tweet about the whole Beam Therapeutics having certain patents on the whole human therapeutics with accordance to the base editing technology. So let's just hear out what he has said, and I really highly advise you guys to go over this interview. Really great content about base editing, just CRISPR in general. But here in this, as he concludes the interview, watch what he says about the next 10 years.
10 years time, what kind of big events or do you hope what are you excited for in the next 10 years in terms of scientific breakthroughs? That's a big question, but
yeah. I mean, I hope within 10 years we will see many of the technologies, if not all of the technologies we've touched on during this interview, benefit patients. And at the rate of progress, which shows no signs of slowing down and only signs of speeding up, I think it's easy to predict that. I mean, it's only been 9 years since the very first paper that reported Jennifer Doudna, Martin Janik, Emmanuel Charpentier's paper reporting the use of Cas9 for genome editing. And it's only been 5 years since our first base editing paper, and only been 1.5 years since our first prime editing paper. But these tools are very widely used and advanced, and companies have already been founded to take all of these technologies to the clinic to benefit patients. In the case of the nucleases, as I mentioned, they're already in people. There are already humans walking this earth who are experiencing for the first time a relief of some of their symptoms of a genetic disease because they have CRISPR-edited DNA inside their body. Edited ex vivo at first and then transplanted, but there are also people who are in clinical trials now who have had the first in vivo CRISPR editing take place in the body in a clinical trial that Editas has run, for example. So, I think it's easy to predict that within 10 years, there should not only be many more such trials, but there should be some actual drugs on the market that are benefiting patients suffering from, I think, a fairly wide range of diseases with a genetic component. I'd be surprised and disappointed if 10 years from now that weren't the case. Hopefully programmable epigenetic modulators will begin to be clinically used as well by then. So I with the caveat that I think academics end up being pre-selected to be optimists, because if you don't believe all of this stuff is going to work eventually, then what's the point? But I think 10 years is a plausible time frame to see most or all of these technologies benefit patients in a very direct way.
Cool.
Yeah, so let's pause the video here. So very interesting, right? So he just basically was given the question, how do you see the gene editing space? How do you see the space developing in the next 10 years or in the future? And he's basically very optimistic about it. One interesting point is when he mentioned about the in vivo approach, he did not mention NTLA's name out there. Very, very interesting that he only mentioned Editas, but it is what it is. If anyone is confused by why he didn't mention NTLA, please do reference to the previous video where he basically laid out that the facts that Beam Therapeutics, which is a company under his portfolio, right? They hold certain patents when it comes to human therapeutics when it comes down to base editing. So very interesting. Besides that, it looks like Dr. Liu here is very, very optimistic about the future, and he's basically saying, hey, if in the next 10 years we don't have certain drugs out there that's going to cure so many diseases, he'd be very, very surprised. And I think many of the investors, such as me, in this field, I think we're looking at this in the long term, but definitely in 10 years, I just don't see how we don't get to a point where we have a couple of mass market drugs. We have many of these companies sort of flourishing and making positive, significant revenues with an actual business plan that's really commercial, and they're tackling many of these diseases. So definitely a great thing to see here. I highly advise you guys to watch this interview. Even if you're not into the whole base editing type of technology, it's still a good idea to sort of see what are the main players in this space really talking about when it comes to gene editing and so on. So really quick note here, CRISPR Papers here, a Twitter account that I follow, they published an article here basically stating fungal genome editing for control infection and diseases. So let's click on it just briefly. Let's take a look. So there's this paper that was published, I believe this is in the university at Tokyo University. So it looks like this paper basically addresses controlling fungal diseases, which is very, very interesting, right? So far we talked about human therapeutics, we talked about curing diseases, we talked about testing on actual humans, curing actual diseases on real humans that exist, and thousands of people are born every day with different diseases. But there's a whole other side of this whole technology, right? We're talking about vegetation, we're talking about plants, we're talking about bacteria, we're talking about just like fungal genome editing. It could be its own space. So this I'm just mentioning this just to keep your mind open that we've talked about human therapeutics, but gene editing doesn't just apply to humans. It could apply to vegetation, it could apply to plants, and so on. And there are companies that are addressing those fields as well. So just keep that in mind. So we'll take this off. And the last thing I wanted to mention today, and this is my previous video, I sort of titled the video with, patents, potential patents war or something along those lines. And this, it is confusing to me, and I know to many other people, what this patent situation is about. The best article I got is from ARK Invest. Obviously, ARK Invest, big investors in many of these companies in this space, in genome editing space. And in 2018, so this was a couple of years ago, one of the analysts published an article, and we won't go over the whole article in this video, but I do plan on tackling a whole video on just the article and perhaps the patent situation. But what's really interesting is this overview here, right? Very interesting, right? So you see here there's a couple of players here, and different companies own different portion, right? So for example, CRISPR Therapeutics, they own the human therapeutics, right, for blood, eye, and heart disease, and they're basically and then obviously sickle cell disease and T-cell therapies for cancer, and they have their partnership with Vertex, for example. And then you move on to NTLA, for example. Here, NTLA, they own certain patents, and then you have Regeneron that is being licensed to. Very, very interesting, right? So this diagram here, I took some time to look at it. I still have to get my mind around it. If you guys have even a better insight than I do, which I'm sure some of you do, please do mention to me either in Twitter or just comment down in the video. But it's really, really interesting to see what's going on in the patents. And before they lay down this diagram here in the article, they mentioned a company as an example in the 1980s. This company here, Genentech. And this company here actually, because they held a patent, for years the stock just scaled 11-fold because they own specific patents. Very, very interesting, right? So what does this say about companies like NTLA, CRISPR Therapeutics, Editas, and so on? Has the market grows for this space, has more awareness is given, as the genome editing progresses through the trials and so on. So big question mark over this, and I do think it is useful to understand what's going on. I think if you're an investor, you should understand who owns the patents, what can the patents do, what are the limitations for any competitor to enter in the exact same space, for example, tackling the same disease. We did mention there will be many winners. We did mention there's so many diseases, so many processes to follow, and because the FDA approval is about length and time, it's just not possible to visualize one single company dominating the whole space. It doesn't work like that. I think most investors do not believe that will be the case, and this is why you have many of these companies such as NTLA, CRISPR, Editas, Beam Therapeutics, and so on and Fate Therapeutics as well, and they're all basically getting poured money into their companies because the general belief is there'll be many winners. So I do plan on making a video just on the patent situation, so we can sort of gain insight together here, and hopefully try to enhance our understanding as to what these companies hold as patents and what does this mean for this space in the long term. So we'll end this video like this. I do want to thank you for watching this video. Please do like and subscribe. Really, really does help our channel and of course our community. And do comment if you have any questions, especially about the patent situation, and maybe about that Dr. Liu comments for the outlook. It'd be interesting to see what your thoughts are. So thank you very much. Maybe I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.